Our first SCG quarterfinal here at our Star City Games Worcester, brought to you by Ultimate Guard, Twitch, and Tigtone. That's premiering tonight.
Very excited about that. I've heard it's a weird-ass show.
Yeah. If it's anything like the show Tigtone, I'm pretty sure it
Yeah,
will be.
I think it's the same people who created that, actually.
Now, Ross Merriam on the play here in the finals, in the quarterfinals against Keith. It feels to me like this is a matchup that Ross is happy to draw.
Yeah, this is one where if both players know what's going on, it's still going to be hard for Death Shadow to even maneuver through what Phoenix is doing. And it's very much a situation where Phoenix gets punished much harder for misassessing the matchup, but Shadow just as a deck can be punishing if you don't know what you're doing. And then there are also some draws you have where you might not even get punished, but you're just put in a spot where you have to hope they don't have it because you draw so many Street Wraiths, so many Dismembers, and so forth.
Ross leads on Serum Vision, scries both cards to the top, and passes back to Keith. Now, what I'm interested to see on Keith's side is what he does with his life total in this matchup.
Right. Oh, big fan of this. Big fan of this Mishra's Bauble trigger reminder.
Yeah, he doesn't want to miss drawing the card on Ross's upkeep.
Do you think that's a token that one of our future Invitational champions could have drawn up?
Yeah, he's going to sacrifice Mishra's Bauble. Manamorphose is the top card. Ross knows that when he put it there.
Fair magic.
Yeah.
Fair
when your
magic.
Is It Phoenix opponent scries top, and the top card is Manamorphose. How concerned are we?
Ross has a second land,
Okay.
first of all. Second of all, the next card could be anything and you're in trouble.
Well, here's Inquisition of Kozilek, and it is a full 3 damage from Keith going to 17. I was interested to see how he'd manage the life total here, because it's the kind of matchup where is close enough to burn that you don't automatically fetch shock everything.
Right, but there is sort of a point where maybe the nice thing about the first shock land is it lets you start fetching your other shock lands tapped because you automatically
Right.
have access to both the colors of mana that you need before you need a few mana there.
Opt, Thought Scour, Manamorphose, a second land, and Mutagenic Growth are the cards for Ross. No actual threats here outside of, looks like there's a thing in the ice. That was the one card Ross is banking on, and Keith's going to go ahead and take that one.
Yeah, this is just a pretty straightforward Inquisition. Anytime you play any of these hand disruption spells, you go, all right, what is the if I take away one card, how do I just remove an entire piece of their hand? And everything else is fairly redundant, or the card Mutagenic Growth, which you don't really care about in your Fatal Push deck.
Right, that Mutagenic Growth is a one-of that Ross has registered this weekend. He has 4 different one-ofs in the deck. Flame Slash, Lightning Axe, Izzet Charm, and Mutagenic Growth for the event.
Right, and with all the cantrips that Ross has in his deck, it's pretty easy to just find those throughout the course of a game.
Top card is that Manamorphose he drew. He'll chain it into a Thought Scour, and wouldn't you know it, hits an Arclight Phoenix.
Oh my, so lucky.
He has a card for single. Manamorphose into double blue. Right, so now he can opt here as the third spell.
Perfect.
Good foresight to set up that cantrip, and that as the third spell means here comes Arclight Phoenix.
Caw.
I was interested to see if on this turn Ross was going to go for the attack.
Right, that's a good point where, Merriam may be under the impression that rather than trying to fight through fatal pushes with things like Crackling Drake with Thing in the Ice, if you just have the Phoenix and can keep a Shadow down for a turn or two, or just chump block the Death Shadow, let's start Lava Spiking him.
Okay, so that's what the plan he's on. Just a straight race. Keith to 14 on the attack. Yeah, the worry is as Ross deals more damage, Keith's ability to race back gets stronger thanks to the card Death Shadow.
Exactly, and this is going to kind of come down to if Ross thinks that Keith has a Death Shadow draw or one of the Delve creature draws. Because you look real dumb real quick if you go, all right, bring back Arclight Phoenix, no attacks, go. And Rong goes, all right, Thought Scour myself, Gurmag Angler.
Yeah, that's a huge feel bad. Another attack from Ross. Now on Keith's turn, he played a fetch land, so he drops to 11 here. We'll see if he wants to slow down the damage or keep it going.
You probably just have to keep it going, with the thought here being, you're already in for these first 3 points of damage. You're on a plan, and that's because you assume this is the correct way to win. You need to figure out if this is wrong, which he has not, or be under the assumption your plan is correct. Have some faith in your own decision making.
Ross follows up with Thing in the Ice. Keith now, what does he do with this fetch land? Does he go to 10? Does he go to 8?
It depends how many spells he has to cast on the end step, but really, as long as the Grixis stack loses that requisite 11 life to make Death Shadow have Stubborn Denial online, then that's about all the life you really need to be losing.
Yeah, and you see him slowing down here, getting that basic island.
Right. As long as Rong has another fetch land or something, then he's going to get down, and going down to 9 or less actually changes the clock on this Arclight Phoenix.
Keith going to opt here.
He opts to opt.
He opts to opt.
Opts to opt sounds like some crappy rejected 90s board game.
Four pairings for your fourth and final round are making their way to the gathering point. 2:30 modern players, please head towards the gathering point and find your seats. We are also looking for one more person.
See a Stubborn Denial in Keith's hand. Right now, though, he has to just get on the board here. Looks like he decides to take the card that's on top, which is Thought Scour, and then immediately Thought Scours himself.
Yeah, the assumption here is if you're not going to use the mana anyway, you just get one random card out of your deck, but you have 2 extra cards in your graveyard, which is honestly a tangible resource in your Snapcaster Mage Delve Creatures concoction.
That's not too bad here. Now Keith trying to gain back the board. That Thing in the Ice, if it can transform, it'll really force Keith to have a Fatal Push to answer.
Right. We're in the territory where Ross just flipping this Thing in the Ice is probably going to be lethal, as Merriam does have cards like Lightning Bolt, or can probably just dump this Arclight Phoenix and bring it back all over again.
Another fetch here for Keith, but still just getting those basics. It's the Swamp, so he goes to 9.
Right, and going to another multiple of 3 here is that thing that I was alluding to previously about it just changing the clock and how many Arclight Phoenixes that Keith Rong can take hits from.
A delve threat from Keith, his Gurmag Angler. He's going to delve a full 6 for it. Leaving just some instants here. We have Thought Scour, Opt, and Inquisition of Kozilek.
Right, and it's open deck list, but even when playing against a strategy like this, if you see the Death Shadow get exiled away, that kind of tells you that Kolagon's command is just never coming out of the main deck.
And I like this turn from Keith. He also has a copy of Death Shadow. Now at 9, 2 4-power creatures. The leaves up a blue mana for the Stubborn Denial that's in his hand.
11 life has been paid. It's time to deploy the Shadow.
Out of Lightning. That 4 really the number. It's out of Lightning Bolt range and turns on Stubborn Denial.
Just good math.
I'm interested to see where Ross goes on this. With now there is a Shadow and Angler in play.
Legacy Classic players.
He'll opt on end step, but whether or not he wants to keep swinging this Arclight Phoenix or just wait for Thing in the Ice is pretty interesting here.
Right, and there's even the point where Thing in the Ice naturally lines up so well against the Delve creatures because you can't just recast them. That's not a given.
Manamorphose, how Ross wants to start the turn. On Keith's side, I'm pretty interested in just Stubborn Denying this right away.
Yeah, you're kind of priced into doing that just because, this is the first turn that Rong has had his, we'll say his Fatal Push shields down.
Right.
And that Ross knows that he can just go for it with this Thing in the Ice.
Right, if Thing in the Ice transforms into Awoken Horror, that's the end of the story.
Yeah. Game is effectively over at that point.
Yeah, it looks like Manamorphose was countered by Stubborn Denial, but that might not be enough. Ross casts Serum Visions, fetches for land, and he might just have the 3rd spell anyway.
Yeah, at this point it's hard not to, the rate he's playing, it feels like Merriam knows that he's got it here.
Yeah, the card's going to be Faithless Looting, so a transform. Now, it's not lethal immediately, as Arclight
This
Phoenix
lets
is
him
back in the
discard
hand.
the Phoenix with the Faithless Looting.
Oh, right, so trigger. Okay, let's talk about
This
the
is
order
3
of the
spells.
stacking here, right?
Yeah.
So, Awoken Horror transforms with Faithless Looting on the stack, puts his Arclight Phoenix back in Ross's hand, then he draws 2 discards, goes to combat, brings that very same Phoenix back, and that is lethal for game number 1.
Wow. That was a fast turnaround there, even through a counterspell.
Yeah, I like how specifically ending that on Faithless Looting presents the lethal that turn.
Yes, that was some good sequencing from Ross.
So, Ross Merriam picks up game 1 here in the quarterfinals with Is It Phoenix. Got out ahead on the board. The card Thing in the Ice looking very impressive.
Yeah, Thing in the Ice is just one of the more important cards in the matchup. If Keith isn't able to find an early copy of Fatal Push to take care of it, it just kind of sits there and reminds Keith, hey, death's coming. It's coming.
So let's look at Keith's sideboard. He still has the 4 Fatal Pushes to deal with Thing in the Ice, but if he can get extra answers, I think he'd like to find them.
Right, there are a couple of cards in here that are kind of going to... It's going to rely on how Keith wants to try to posture himself in the matchup. The big things that we're looking at here, Snapcaster Mage lets him grind a little bit more if that's what he's interested in doing. And on the other side, it also just gives him more copies of specific cards that are more important. So having that turn 1 Fatal Push into turn 3 Snapcaster Fatal Push if Merriam ends up having more copies of Thing in the Ice. Surgical Extraction is something that helps him cover bases. It helps him make sure that he doesn't just get got by those Arclight Phoenixes. And then from there, maybe just some things that break up the number of resources that Merriam has access to, like Stubborn Denial.
Well, a fast game 1 there for Ross, and this matchup going all sorts of ways for Is It Phoenix. We mentioned that the one other quarterfinal had the same matchup between Tarek Patel and Tom Kessler. That match is already done. A 2-0 win from Tarek Patel. He was the Is It Phoenix pilot as well. Moves him into the semifinals. So Tarek will be playing the winner of this match.
That did not take long.
No. Now, as we've been talking here about Ravnica Allegiance this weekend, that is now available for pre-orders. SCG has a price here, not the MSRP, our special price here, which is available for pre-order on our website. And if you're a member of SCG Premium, it is even cheaper than that. You can order it today, and it will ship Friday, January 25th. Find out at starcitygames.com/RNA.
I'm so excited for this new set. I know it's going to sound like I'm supposed to say that. You know, I have the microphone, but this is seriously one of the most exciting standard sets that I've seen in a very long time.
I like the Gruul cards. They're in this one.
That's all?
That's it. I mean that's enough. I'm in at that point.
Wow. Look, I am a proper Simic magician, and I'm very excited for all kinds of new things to use a Hadana's Climb to abuse.
Hadana's Climb is a card that I think is in a position to shoot up here.
Oh, yeah.
As far as how much we see it in standard.
All of the adapt things just care that they get +1 counters
They
put
don't
on
care
them, not
where.
how.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one that loots, there's one that searches for more, there's one that becomes almost a Gilded Lotus.
Yeah. There's a lot of exciting stuff there. Whew. So going with the sideboards, let's look at Ross's sideboard. He's up a game. He has 2 Paths to Exile. He has 2 of those Stony Silences we mentioned that everybody seems to have this weekend. Simmer's Rejection, Dispel, Spell Pierce, Snapcaster Mage, Surgical Extraction, Abrade, Blood Moon, and EE.
All right.
Now, Blood Moon, that's new to the deck, and actually something I like against Grixis Shadow.
Yeah, it's something where we saw this actually when Shadow was one of the bigger decks. We saw the Sun and Moon deck kind of just punk it out sometimes. So going, oh
man,
did you fetch those all big, bad, painful lands that turn on your creatures? That's such a shame. This was going to be so hard for you.
So you assume you'll go toward that. Now, a lot of these cards can answer Grixis Death Shadow. You know, you'll see matchups where players board in cards like Engineered Explosives against Grixis, but because Ross is the proactive deck here, I'm not sure how much I like any of that.
Yeah, I agree here. I don't necessarily love Engineered Explosives when all that it's really going to ever be killing is Death Shadow. You know, you're never killing a Gurmag Angler with a Sunburst card. But past that, you might just be looking at some things like maybe Dispel, just because it can force some of Merriam's power plays through, and it can just counter the key cards like Fatal Push. But past that, I'm not super excited about anything past maybe Snapcaster Mage. You could also make a point for Path to Exile just because it's better than Flame Slash in a lot of scenarios, and if Ross feels like searching up the Hallowed Fountain's free anyway.
Yeah, I do like that Path to Exile cleanly answers Death's Shadow and Gurmag Angler, something that Ross's deck is a point short of doing.
Exactly. It's not something that he's necessarily excited about, but a lot of times when you're sideboarding, you're not just boarding out your dead cards for your live ones, it's kind of just upgrading cards for the matchup as well.
Yeah, I see things like Lightning Axe and Flame Slash and Mutagenic Growth and feel like there's going to be room for these Path to Exiles.
Yeah, I good grief, I really hope this Mutagenic Growth is not in his deck postboard.
I thought you loved that card last time we saw it. Wow,
that should tell you.
Just so changing your mind. Just
what can I say? I'm so changeable. I'm a shapeshifter, Matthias. Haven't you seen my token?
All right, we're going to board out this Mutagenic Growth then. Who plays that card?
Dummies like me.
You got to just I'm all confused now.
I'm all creature types.
Yeah. And now in this matchup the issue with it is that it's paying 2 life to basically deal 2 damage.
Exactly. And generally paying 2 life to make someone lose 2 life is not good against Shadow.
Yeah, they're pretty in for that exchange.
Yeah.
They'd take a few of those to start the game.
Yeah, they bolt themselves sometimes. They literally just put the bolt on the table and go, you know what?
It's more
Don't
damage.
even worry about it. I'll take one for the team.
Remember when we first saw the original Death Shadow decks, kind of the all-in Death Shadow combo decks? That was a frequent play out of them.
The one with Phyrexian Unlife?
Not that one. It was...
The one where you Spoils of the Vault and name a card that's not in your deck.
Ooh, I like that.
And then you Rite of Consumption your opponent for like...
Those were the
60?
first ones.
Yeah. Oh, you said first one.
All right, the first ones that started putting up results.
I understand I'm a whippersnapper, but I can hang.
The ones that were like Step Lynxes, Goblin Guides, and Death Shadows, and then just 4
Ranger
Battle
of
Rages.
Eos.
Yeah, that was the sideboard card. You boarded Rangers.
It was nice. You could traverse for it.
Yeah. I like that deck. And then, that deck bolted itself all the time.
Oh, it did. Do you remember the top 4 of the Invitational in Somerset where Brad Nelson killed Jadine Clemperens on turn 2 through an Inquisition with that deck?
That deck had some nice draws.
Maybe it's a good thing Chitaxian Probe's not legal.
Yeah, it turns out yeah, that wasn't the deck.
Yeah,
That's
randomly
a nice
just
card.
paying 12 life on your first turn could have upside.
Well, Keith's going to try to do part of that. It starts with a Street Wraith.
What is 2, if not 1 digit away from 12?
That's true. I'm forgetting that this was a deck where we had twice the number of Street Wraiths in it, and you just had the broken start so much more.
Oh, yeah. People go, oh, this is a worse this is a worse that, but people just don't really appreciate redundancy.
Now, Ross starting on Serum Visions, Keith does have a Stubborn Denial in hand, which he's going to use. Yeah, he had a Thought Scour, so there's a moment to pause there.
Oh, so the thing here is Ross is a synergy deck. Even if it feels like he's doing fair things a lot of the time, he still needs specific cards in order for his deck to function.
Second lander, and it is Thing in the Ice again. Keith did not pass a Fatal Push check last game on this. We'll see if he does better on game 2.
It's hard to imagine that he wasn't more into Fatal Push after what happened game 1.
I don't think they'd be going anywhere. See if he has in hand. Looks like Surgical Extraction has also come in out of the sideboard for Keith.
It's a nice card in this matchup. Ross doesn't actually have that many threats.
That's the thing about both these decks, right? No one's actually playing threats.
Do you think Ross brought in Surgical Extraction?
No.
That's good.
That's good. I mean, look at all these cards. See, Thought Scour on Keith's side. I will make this point. If Ross surgicaled right now, there'd be no way Keith could make a turn 2 Gurmag Angler.
Wow, and Ross didn't even think to bring it in.
Right, a surgical would hold it off. See, that'd be the 6th card. Boom. Surgical would a Time Walk for 0.
This is why Ross is not the fastest winning Izzet player in the top 8. He just doesn't see all the angles.
See, look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Fan him out. Just enough for a zombie fish. And he'll dismember.
You know, it's no Fatal Push, but it works its butt off.
Yeah, that'll do. Actually, losing the 4 life and is extra upside.
We have paid 9 out of the 11 life we need to pay.
Well, 2 more can be paid here as Thoughtseize is the play for Keith. That'll bring him to 9, and we'll take a look at Ross's hand. We have 2 Crackling Drakes, 2 Opts, and a Lightning Bolt.
This is one where, I mean, 2 pair with a
Yeah.
high bolt.
So you take the Bolt, right? You take the kicker?
All right, so I'm going to stop you right there. No.
All right.
We are very interested in just taking one of these Crackling Drakes. Even though Ross is a little bit away from him, the other cards just don't do anything.
Well, Lightning Bolt does 3 damage. I guess that's not very
Matthias,
relevant here.
You're so right.
And he takes one
Lightning
of the
Bolt
Crackling
does do
Drakes.
3 damage. I'm so glad you're here.
Well, he said they didn't do anything. I think that's what the card does.
I know, you're just here to rein me in. I'm out of control. I'm glad. The people are glad.
Keith plays a fetch land. Still no threat here, so he'll pass back to Ross. Now, Ross started the turn without a 3rd land, so he'll try to use Opt to curve up to that Crackling Drake. Does pick up a fetch land.
My
and play
grandma.
Scalding Tarn.
What big land drops you have.
Just one more, and he can make a
Fatal push on the bottom is not where he wants that.
A 2/4 Drake.
Most importantly, a 2/4 Elvish Visionary.
That is nice.
I'm a big Elvish Visionary fan, and this kind of fits both ways because that's a big Elvish Visionary, and I'm a fan.
It's like a lot of Elvish Visionaries.
This is a pun. I'm just gonna say it until you laugh at it.
Wait, which part's the pun, though?
Look, it's I'm a big fan of Elvish Visionary, and
Okay,
then I'm
all right,
also
all
a
right.
fan of the big Elvish Visionary. It's wordplay.
Oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah, I know. It's not.
Oh, that's a good one.
Aw, thank you. Now I don't have to say it anymore. The curse has been lifted.
It's okay. If we make it do it 5 minutes later, I'll not get it again.
Oh, perfect.
It's like you're.
It's our dynamic.
It's like doing magic tricks for a cat, you know?
Where did it go?
Yeah. Right. As soon as you leave the room and bring the item back, they're all confused, and you can just do the trick again.
It's that blasted red dot, isn't it?
It's back. It's back. Yeah. Back over to Keith's side. Looking for a way to put pressure on the board. He knows that Ross is going to have a Crackling Drake in a turn here.
Yeah, Grixis Shadow not known for countering non-creature spells. Or I said
Creature
that wrong.
spells.
It's not known for countering
Oh, that's more of that wordplay, isn't it?
non-creature spells. There we go. God, I had the joke planned out and I ruined it.
Here is a threat. It's Gurmag Angler from Keith.
Where I'm from, we call this pressure.
Ross still at 20 this game. We do have another result, and this one's actually a pretty big one. So the teammates of the finals last week are wasting no time. It's Dominic Harvey with Amulet Titan 2-1 into the semifinals. This was the matchup we thought would be his hardest one, and now the tournament's looking pretty good for him.
Yeah, that's a big, big upset there where now, even if Sukinnick makes it out of the top 8, that is not something he wants to find in top 4.
No, he'll have to beat Amulet Titan. So Dominic Harvey and Tarek Patel, those teammates both already in the top 4. Ross and Keith Rong here, the winner will play Tarek. With Jonathan Sukinnick and Jake Mondello, those are their other 2 players. Winner of that plays against Amulet in the semis. So the Angler and a pass from Keith. A few cards left in hand. Ross going to fetch here. He uses that opt end step and now gets Hallowed Fountain tapped. That makes me think the Path to Exiles are in.
Oh, there's a path, all right.
Is it in his hand?
No, it's to exile.
Okay. Path to Exiles just have a signpost on the card.
It's
one of those
coming.
arrows.
It's coming.
Lightning Axe from Ross in his hand. That's going to line up very well. And fetches here. Looks like we'll be going for a Crackling Drake.
Ross just trying to get out on the table himself. It's Crackling Drake.
Yeah.
Basically, against Shadow, if a Crackling Drake connects once, they die.
Had to take some extra damage there. Was Flooded Strand having to find his second red, so Ross goes to 16.
That's okay, as long as Ross doesn't go to a different multiple of 5, it's not actually killing him any sooner.
Here's the Drake. Currently a 3-4.
Otherwise known as very close to dead to the lightning bolt that Keith knows about.
Real close to dead to the lightning bolt.
Just one spell away from dead to the
Ross
lightning
probably doesn't
bolt.
have another spell, right? How many of those could he play?
This deck was originally called Is It Spells, right?
Yeah, you know. It was... Some of them might be creatures.
It's complicated. It's this big spelly-welly nonsense. Is it pushing time?
And Keith fetches down to 7, so now he is going to have an answer to that Crackling Drake, as the lightning bolt is lethal.
It's hard to imagine that he doesn't have a push here or another fetch land in his hand.
Well, he does not. He enabled Revolt there, but did not use a black mana, so there's unlikely to be a fatal push in the hand as it stands. Now, if he plans to Snapcaster Mage that Dismember, he's going to need another land. He can't leave himself dead to Lightning Bolt.
Now, you could tap 2 and 2 and go to 5.
Okay, be close. Maybe that's his play.
Gotta offer that trade.
Three cards in hand for Keith. Right now, the Drake mentioned a 3-4, so Keith will attack in for 5, drops Ross to 11. And fetch for Keith to 6. We'll see if it's for that basic swamp or whether he's going to 4. Assume it's the swamp, and it is. It's down to 6. No life gain in the deck, so a second lightning bolt from Ross will force a stubborn denial.
Life gain seems a little bit counterintuitive in the I need to pay life deck.
And from Keith here, it is Snapcaster Mage Dismember, and he pays the full 3 mana for Dismember. But the Drake is gone, but it does mean some shields down for Keith. And there are some combinations from Ross that will send him through to the semifinals here.
Ooh. Bolt and another bolt, for example.
Bolt plus Bolt. Arclight Phoenix can do it.
So many things that just completely turn it here.
Yeah, land and Phoenix. And a lot of cards in hand for Ross. Keith is hoping to get another turn. We'll see if this works out. Starts on the Serum Visions from Ross. Draws a card, scries 1 to the top. That's not what you want to see.
When you're tapped out and they top.
Yeah, and he's moving quick. Manamorphose from Ross as spell number 2. A Faithless Looting will do it. And how about 2 Lightning Bolts? That'll also do it. The 6 points upstairs. Ross Merriam is your winner, and 2 games to 0. He is on to the semifinals.